Today being December 17th, 2014, I'd like to open up the Charlton Planning Board meeting. First is, we'll do payrolls. I have payroll for Alan and Jane for $12.29 for 1/3/15 and 1/5/15 to 1/10/15. 1/12/15 to 1/17/15 and 1/19/15 to 1/24/15. Do I have a motion to accept the payroll for that time frame?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got some bills to pay. Stonebridge Fresh Incorporated, we have a bill for $739.87. Excuse me, Stonebridge Press Incorporated for $198.45, and one from BHB Incorporated for $739.87. We have another one for Layloss Publishing, $230, and mileage for Allen for $113.56.
The Laidlaw is our annual subscription for the land court
Okay.
mailings they send us every month.
And we have some billing from Graves Engineering. The invoices tally up to $4,020.95, and they're pretty much listed here individually. Take a look and review them. And we have another one from Graves Engineering for a time period, $1,993.20. They're all individually filled out. Do I have a motion to accept the billing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Second.
We have some correspondence here. One is from Chris Ryan. It's interested in participating in the freight rail planning project initiation. This is something from the CMRPC. We'd like to continue our freight rail study and feasibility assessment work for 2015, building on from our effort with the town of Auburn and Oxford, along with assistance from the Providence and Worcester Railroad. Can you deal with that, please?
I talked to Eric Smith about it. What it is they're looking to put in a grant application to the state for money to the regional agency that would give them time to do a study to look at the various freight rail lines of any community's planning board that agrees to be part of it, and see if there's any opportunities there to maybe foster economic development off of it. So we have lines that come through town. A lot of them aren't near existing roadways, but you never know. And I told them that I thought I'd recommend to you tonight that they could put us in the application as one of the communities to look at. And we'd learn at least about the nature of our freight lines, and maybe there's an opportunity now or in the future. It's
You know, this one basically for Providence and Worcester Railroad, but I'm sure CSX when it,
oh yeah,
which goes through town anyways.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I think they'd expand this proposal to add any rail lines, yeah. So if you're willing, I can tell them that please include us in it, and let's see if they get the grant, hopefully. If they don't, they don't, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all grant money, right?
Oh, yeah, it's just, and it's grant money that goes from the state to them, and then they would, you know, include our community in the study.
Charlton Housing Authority request for a proposal for the conveyance of Phase 2 Meadowbrook Drive and the development of a senior affordable housing. A non-mandatory site visit meeting will be held at 1 Meadowview Drive, Charlton, Mass. at 10 a.m. on December 18th, 2014. followed by a tour of the site. Any comment from you on this?
I know one developer will be coming for sure.
And you did get 10 queries for the packet, which is a great sign.
Right,
Yeah.
and Mike Andrade will be there, and Chip Coordinator will be there.
Yep, I'll be there too.
And you'll be there.
We got a report from Graves Engineering. It's in regards to the commercial building at 299 Worcester Road, construction easement. Based upon the assumption, we recommend a construction easement of $43,057. Any idea what?
Yeah, I asked
Graves
Michael to
report's
put that
about?
together. Alex Santos has been working really hard to get at least a minimum in before the winter of finishing his drainage and up to finish coat of parking. But if he wants an occupancy over the winter and he hasn't done any further amount of work, fence, landscaping, some other work there, it's all itemized, and he could give us a bond, so he could get an occupancy and then in the spring finish. He might also finish some of that work before he asks for an occupancy, but we wanted to just dovetail it and get it ready for him.
299 Worcester Road, is this by the ADT?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
but he hasn't come to us and asked for anything, but I know he's got different potential tenants who've been going to him. So I figured I'd at least list out, so when he does come to us, I can say we'll need coverage on these items.
I don't know if this is the time to bring the subject up, but for him to get an occupancy, plumbing wise and stuff in the building,
Sure. Well,
Is,
this is a good time. You can bring it up, this is a good time.
plumbing that's done in that garage type building does not comply with Massachusetts code.
So he's not even, I mean, that's more direct to it than what we do anyway, so he's gotta jump that hurdle first. Is he aware of it yet, you think?
I did verbally mention it to him, but I do plan to send him a letter
Okay.
stating it as the plumbing inspector.
Sure.
That'd be a hurdle to,
Yeah.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah, he'll have to work that out before he even comes to us on those items anyway.
I got another report, a site visit from Graves Engineering. It's in for Rio Biology, the rabbit facility. The project is under construction. As this is a building project, there are several entities that manage and conduct the construction as follows. All site drainage has been installed, with the exception of a 6-inch drain at the entrance. Most disturbed soil and slopes outside the work area have been hydro-seeded, but has not germinated. It is likely that touch-up seeding will be necessary come next spring. The building foundation and slabs have been completed, steel frame is erected. Binding pavement has been completed on 3 sides of the building, east, west, and south, including the parking area. There's also included some pictures here of the site. Be interesting to see how it keeps going.
Yeah.
Availability for summer. Another site report from Graves Engineering. It's for the GM Solar Array, which is, let's see.
Verizon one on north side?
The Verizon Solar Array Farm. Upon arriving, I met with the Sun Power Corporation superintendent and reviewed the process of construction site at our site visit on October 7th, 2014 as follows. Racking the solar modulars installation is 98% completed. The underground electrical trench from the array to the Verizon building is completed. Fencing has not yet been installed, and we still understand that Sun Power will be proposing to change the material and height of the perimeter fencing. We also understand that Sun Power will be proposing a location change to the gate entrance of the array closure to the switchgear. Soil remains disturbed beneath and around the arrays. The recent freezing and thawing cycle has resulted in muddy areas that will not be able to be finished and stabilized until next spring. So they're still working on this.
Yep, and under your planning permit administration, I have some bonds from them to cover that for this evening.
So they're still looking to change a few things like, the entrance gates and stuff.
Yep, and we have it here for tonight. Yep.
Given Mike's included a couple pictures you may wanna look at. The Town of Leicester Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Leicester will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 7th, 2015, on a petition by Kerry Scola, 25 Barnes Ave, Worcester, for a special permit for a limited frontage lot on building lot number 2 on property located at 42 Tobin Road, Cherry Valley, Mass. The Town of Leicester Zoning Board of Appeals, certificate of decision on variance, November 19, 2014, at 22 Pleasant Street, Leicester, to extend the front porch. There was a 3-2 vote, motion defeated. Sorry, 2-3 vote, motion was defeated. I guess they didn't get it then.
They didn't get it. It's pretty rare to get a notice that something's been denied by any ZBA.
Yeah, well, it's an extension to the front porch.
Give it to 'em.
The Leicester Town of Leicester Zoning Board of Appeals, certificate of decision for a special permit, November 19th, 2014, Lot 7, Conway Drive, for a limited front lot. Owner is R.J.L. Conway LLC, for a special permit for a limited frontage lot on property located at Lot 7, Conway Drive, Leicester, Mass. The applicant is seeking approval for a limited front lot. The property is located in a residential 1 zoning district. I don't believe they voted on this.
No, it's just the notice.
Public hearing, Southbridge Planning Board. The Southbridge Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014, on an applicant filed by Bonnie Jean for a special permit to allow a multi-purpose equine facility, including a grain, storage, and large animal veterinarian service on property located at 236 Blackmere Road, Assessor Map 113, Lot 5. That's pretty much agricultural up there anyways.
Yeah.
Other, labs up that way too.
Yeah. Surprised they triggered that. That's the way they did theirs.
We got one here, Alan, from, the planning board. It's the, project on, 29 Oxford Road.
Yes, that's a letter I wrote to him, Dave Albert, the project manager. He had originally asked if he could do some modifications, and what he described to Mike Andrade and I was of the level of a field adjustment that would just be an agenda item. Then he submitted it to us the other day, and it was basically completely redesigning the project extensively. So I wrote him that letter and faxed it to him yesterday, saying that it's doable, but you need to legally refile, and we have to have a public hearing. So I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow about schedule and everything. He can move forward, though it won't delay his groundbreaking. He can still get a building permit under the current approval to clear, to prep, and to start doing that work, and on a parallel track come into you on the revisions. But originally, he had verbally described some things and emailed a little description that did not match a 15-item list that was, wow, he's starting all over again up at Peter Millet's property. They've just chosen to do it that way. It's all doable, but there's a procedure.
Do they wanna make it smaller, isn't it?
Much smaller. He wants to share their capacity for three-phase from National Grid with another site they have, and he feels that they won't get approved for the other site to hook into National Grid, so they're kinda doing half and half, and that cuts Peter Millet's site by half.
Yeah, really.
So, yeah.
being all of 17, there was a public hearing continuance for 0 Point Engineering, commercial solar facility site plan application.
We have a request from them to extend the public hearing and continue it to the next meeting. They needed to do more drainage calculations than they expected, and they weren't able to finish it in time. So they met with us the other day. They're on the right track, and they are gonna get it in the next week. And I think we'll be able to wrap up on the tail end of your January 7th meeting pretty quickly. So he's at conservation right now and just asked if I would provide you with a letter.
Do I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 0 Point Engineering?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one's a continuation too, but it's on for 7:30. We could meet with Alan first, right now.
Okay.
Sure. Alan, sure, come on. If I can just briefly summarize, you remember Alan Clapp from Nexamp Solar on Carpenter Road? And he's been great to work with on everything in the field, to all the paperwork. And he's here tonight on a piece of paperwork. As you know, the site plan required as one of your conditions of approval a decommissioning performance guarantee. So we put it in your packet. I have extra copies if you'd like another copy. And Mike Andrade and I have reviewed it, and it's excellent. First of all, thank you for all the hard work you put into it. It meets all the various requirements that we asked for. And I checked some of the other communities to see if they're comfortable with the same format, and they were.
Yep.
And Michael and I are okay with it. A few items, if I can summarize. One, the dollar amounts. That was a key, and we rely on Graves Engineering to confirm it, and they reviewed it, and they said it's very accurate. The total financial surety amount is $40,000, which is about $8,900 per megawatt of equipment. They've suggested a payment schedule, an accelerating schedule, because obviously they're not decommissioning in the very near future. You know that the project isn't going anywhere near one. So many companies have done it this way, including Nexamp and some other communities that I spoke to, and they were comfortable with it. What they would do is, prior to the issuance of the certificate of operation by Kurt Meskis, they provide us with the initial $10,000, which we provide to the treasurer. The treasurer keeps it in a separate interest-bearing account for the life of the surety. And then annually, over the next 10 years, on the date of that initial payment, they provide us with a $3,000 payment that goes into that account. And then by the end of the 10 years, we have the full $40,000 plus interest, because you're not seeing these projects being decommissioned in less than 10 years. So it's fair. The two communities I spoke with that are on the list said they were very comfortable with A, accepting it, and B, having it for now. And Michael also saw it in some of the other communities he's worked for. So the only thing I've suggested, there was a typo that they provided me via email with a printout. The original draft wrote in providing the $10,000 payment at the time of the building permit, which was weeks ago anyway.
Right, already missed it.
And we don't need it that early anyway. We need it when they're up and running. So if you vote to approve it subject to the revision that we received today, which is it will be paid prior to the building commissioner issuing that certificate, which I believe would probably be around the end of this month anyway.
Should be pretty soon,
Yeah.
correct.
And then, again, the format is he'll come in during the day at some point with the $10,000 made out to the town, we'll give it to the treasurer.
Right,
And he'll give you all the documentation to confirm that it's a separate interest-bearing account.
okay.
Now this, again, is for the project on Carpenter Hill,
Yes.
Yes.
and this is a bond, so that if it ever gets decommissioned, there's money or a bond set up to take it down. And
Yes, if it was decommissioned and they didn't voluntarily take it down, it's an insurance policy. That way we can step in and we can do the decommissioning. If for some reason the company, for instance, worst case scenario, say it was decommissioned because the company went under. If it happened, then they're not there to decommission it, we have the coverage.
Contractually, we're bound, or if we do go bankrupt, somebody's going to purchase this project, because it generates revenues, all the money spent in the beginning, right now. So it has value, and there would be an entity there, and they also would be contractually responsible to remove. So as Alan explained, it is an insurance policy, it's really, it's a second obligation. And it is it's a sum of money versus a bond,
Yep.
so it doesn't need to be renewed. I think think that was the issue.
That helps quite a bit.
Every 3 or 4 years is.
Yeah.
It won't be coming back.
Pandemic.
Yep.
There's
For
also,
us.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
there's also a 3% inflation factor that when he provides us with the annual payments, there'll be a little more factored in on 3% valuation every year. We started doing that about 15 years ago with the cell tower bonds, and we continue that through all of those. That's worked out very well. In those cases, it's insurance companies not posting cash like you, and the insurance companies just build the 3% rider into the policy.
Oh, I see.
So could you just refresh my memory as to what the amounts were so that we could vote on that?
Sure. A few items, Mr. Chairman. The total amount is $40,000, and the payment factor would be $10,000 prior to certificate of operation, followed annually by $3,000 over the following 10 years with a 3% inflation factor.
Do I have a motion to accept the proposal as read by Alan?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have one question though, if you do go out of business, since you put this money up,
Right.
somebody else buys it, we still hold on to your money?
It's cash in hand.
Yes.
Cash in hand, you are part owner of that
Okay.
account. I think it's to be a shared account.
Yes, the treasurer sets it up as a shared account.
Okay.
So legally, no one can go after that. Under state zoning and subdivision laws, our surety bonds are not subject to somebody coming after them. They could come after them upon release, though. And we have experienced that where there's a court case right now in
Yep.
Charlton that we were holding about $300,000 on a subdivision, and there's about 120,000 remaining. I think that's the number, I might be misquoting.
Sure.
And the work's been done, and just as we were about to release, an attorney for a creditor went to court on it saying, when it's released, we want it. And so we're sitting on the sidelines watching the court proceeding right now.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of cash at stake.
Yes.
But we're fine. We were about, the court ordered us not to release it while they review everything. So we don't lose anything in these situations.
Guess that,
Was that it?
That's
Yeah,
it. You
that's
got
it.
Any other
Yeah.
questions that you have?
Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Just
Thanks for
get
coming in
back
now.
Touch later in the month and we'll just wrap it in up.
We will. So, thank you again,
Yeah,
everybody.
have a good one. Good holiday.
Too, as well, thank you.
Alan, quick summary to the board.
Sure.
The other day I was up at Carpenter Hill.
Sure.
And I noticed one of the abutters to the solar farm, they dug out part of their embankment to make their parking lot bigger for their cars.
Okay.
I did notice that the water's just pouring out of the ground, going down the street.
At Carpenter Hill? Do you
Yeah.
remember which abutter it was by any chance?
It's the immediate one to the right of the entrance to
Of the driveway.
Of the driveway. It's the old.
We did our
crossroads.
site visit. I didn't see anything that day, did you?
I've noticed stuff.
It's the old Bob Rogner's house.
Yeah, well,
They cut out the embankment.
Paul and Patty Lamro's son Eric was there.
Yeah. The ground,
Yeah, I've seen it. It's right in front of his driveway, right? Comes
Yeah.
out of the.
it's about 15, 20 feet into the
I
driveway.
asked- I had asked the gentleman that lives to the left of the driveway, Pepka,
Yeah.
Butch, and I asked him like, has that always happened? And he said yes, that it happens in the past. I can't remember from how
Yeah.
last winter was
Mhm.
going up and down there. So I don't know, it might want to be a question for the homeowner if it happened last winter, or if it's just because of the result of construction.
It's just, you know,
Who
it's,
knows? Yeah,
I think that groundwater has
disturbed. Yeah.
been
Altered.
coming out for years.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been created since solar farm went in, because that's been dug out for a while.
Yeah. And
Yes.
they haven't come to us and,
No.
you know, so
Yeah, nobody
that-
said anything.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know. We didn't talk about it at the last meeting. I thought we had a very good site meeting, the three of us.
Very good.
With that.
Yeah.
Learned quite a bit about
Absolutely.
the details of it. There was 70 electricians that day working on site.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite an operation.
Yeah, we went up there on Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. Hey,
Yeah.
get it done, right?
Not quite 7:30, you want to,
We can move to the Verizon and then go back to it. They're just asking for
Oh.
continuance too, or we could just,
it's close enough to
Close enough.
7:30.
yeah.
Being 7:30, we have a applicant for public hearing continuance from GSMP Realty Trust.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the commercial building site plan that you've been reviewing, and Burton had asked for continuance to tonight, and then they spoke to me last week, and they were overwhelmed schedule-wise with getting in here the Jennings Recreation Project, which came in last week, that I'll update you on later in the evening of what the schedule is. And so they said they just couldn't work on it and get it done for tonight, and they asked for a continuance to your next meeting on January 7th. So I'd recommend just approving their request to continue, and we should be able to wrap up that night in just a few minutes.
Do you have a motion to continue the public hearing for GSMP Realty Trust?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did Graves finish the review?
They didn't receive anything because.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're just waiting for the,
Yeah.
to Burton, but Burton got overwhelmed with, other clients. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But, at least they're turning their attention back to it now.
Good.
And that should do it.
Good.
We're waiting for Bill Scanlon, but, next on the agenda is Verizon, so we're in good shape. There are a few items on the agenda tonight for the Verizon solar facility on Northside Road, and they've asked for a field design modification, and they also provided some performance guarantees for this evening. First, the field change. And let me just hand out to the board members two this way, and 1, 2, 3 in this direction. You'll recall that the engineer is Christopher Barrett from Dewberry Engineering in Boston, handling the project. This particular solar array is not going into the grid. They're plugging it right in the building up there to provide for their phones equipment center up in the woods off of North Side. When you approved the plan, they requested and you approved a 6-foot-high white vinyl fence around the perimeter of the field up by the driveway at the top of the hill. And what they're asking for is to replace it instead with an 8-foot-high cyclone fence. If you flip the pages, you'll see the details of the fence. Galvanized chain link double drive gate will be included with it, and then some description, product description and such. Mike Andrade has reviewed it from an engineering point of view and has no problems with it. I have no problem recommending it, A, in terms of height, and B, in terms of switching material. If we had an abutter really right next to it, such as Mr. I forgot his name, the gentleman down by Solar Flare. Wolfie, Mr. Wolfenden. I wouldn't recommend the change because I'm sure the abutter wouldn't want it, but it is way up in the middle of nowhere, no one sees it. And if they want to switch over to this fence design, it certainly isn't creating a problem for anybody. You'd have to really go right up to it to see it. And it gives them more security at the extra height. So I have no problem in terms of recommending that as a field adjustment this evening. And then beyond that, I've got a performance guarantee they've submitted from Hanover Insurance for remaining work up there prior to them getting their certificate of operation this month.
So they're actually looking to make the chain link fence higher.
Yes, yeah.
For security reasons, and they're looking to increase the width, the width of the gate
Yes.
to almost double what the gate is.
Yeah.
So that would be easier for equipment to go in and out, and do we have any discussion on, before we make the motion to accept the two ideas of reconfiguring it?
But no. No.
Objection.
Then do I have a motion to accept the two proposals for the gate size and the height of the fence?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
The second item is the performance bond. They're looking in the next couple of weeks to get from the building commissioner the certificate of operation. And there's two items covered under the bond. The first is what the chairman read from the Graves report, that it's very muddy up there and they can't put grass in this time of year, but they need to give us a performance guarantee. I recommended that the grass performance guarantee be at least through the summer, just to play it safe, so if it grows in and there's issues, we can tell them to reseed. And they actually placed in the bond a date well beyond that. Let me just find it for you. They gave us a surety bond from Hanover Insurance, and November 1st, 2015, so it takes us through summer and fall. They gave us $40,000, which is what is good coverage for the grass and the seed. Then they added $22,816 in for the fence, because the fence contractor is gonna be a week or two late getting it in before they wanna be operating later this month. So probably in January or February, once it's in, they'll come back for the release, but Kurt can't give them the operation if we're not covered and the fence isn't 100%.
Yep.
So this bond covers $22,816 for the fence and $40,000 for the landscaping, for a total of $62,816. It's Hanover Insurance, notarized by their attorney out of California, and it's a routine bond. So I recommend acceptance of it.
So we're gonna make a recommendation that the reseeding and, will they enclose any of this area before the occupancy of it?
He might be able to get the entire fence enclosed prior to, but just in case he's off by a week or two, they wanted to post the bond so they could get the occupancy. So they might go up anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks of it not complete, but it's also possible this is just playing it safe. But if they go to Kurt and the fence is, say, partially up, since we're covered, it's okay for a week or two. And if there was an abutter again, we might have a situation, but it's kind of in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere.
Do they have it? See, I haven't been up there. Do they have because don't they have a gate to their main entrance
Yeah.
anyway?
Yeah, but
So there
this
is-
is a side thing, it's on the
Yeah.
left, it's the field to the left.
So is it before the main gate
Yes,
there?
yeah. See,
Okay.
this way, as they take care of it,
Yeah.
the people don't have to go in their main gate.
Gotcha.
They just go in their own gate, and they don't get
Alright.
involved in the compound, because they
Okay.
wanna keep you out of alien autopsy.
No, yeah.
So after 2 weeks, does somebody go up there and check and see if the fence has been put in or
Oh,
not?
yeah,
Yeah.
We inspect, Mike,
Okay.
Andrade, myself, Kurt, we
You're
all
still
go
going up there?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we'll check it out, and they'll request an inspection, so they can come to you in a future meeting and get that 22,000
Yeah.
released and get it down to 40 again.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's a chance that they can get an occupancy permit without the chain link fence being completed?
Yes,
That's what they're
yeah,
looking for.
that's what they're looking for, and that gives us the legal coverage to be comfortable.
Do I have a motion to accept the performance bond from Hanover Insurance for the reseeding and installation of the new fence?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alright. Path of affordable housing application?
Yeah, that's Bill Scanlon, he's still about 5 to 10 minutes out.
Sure.
So we can move on to our other items.
Growth management?
Sure. A few items under growth management. One I can quickly summarize and give you a handout from Mike Andrade. A few board members know from our conversation. It came to our attention this past day, literally, that there's an odd situation in the Ponican Hill subdivision of one of the lots that the bank sold to an individual to put up a house in the section of Hannah's Way that is now public. Somebody has ripped out 70 feet or so of the fence around the retention basin and at least partially installed the septic system where a foundation is going in for a house. So I asked Mike to take a look at it. He wrote up a little summary of what he saw and took a few photos. And very odd. I often say from time to time that after 30 plus years of being a planner, I've seen everything, but now I can say, no, this is new. I've never seen that. Not pointing any fingers or anything, and I honestly have not talked to anyone beyond Michael looking out to give us the facts on it. But it's an encroachment, as he writes, that must be corrected. I mean, there's federal, state, and local regulations about proper stormwater management, proper septic system. They may have not even contacted the Board of Health to look at it yet, for all we know. They may have just put something in, and down the line, they'll call them, and then the Board of Health will say, what are you doing? But this summarizes it very nicely, and I thought I'd recommend that the board may consider having me, with a brief cover letter, just forward this to three parties: the building commissioner, the Board of Health, and the highway superintendent, because the stormwater is accepted by the town, the retention basin, and is his jurisdiction and responsibility, and bring it to all of their attention to address it accordingly. If it was not accepted by the town yet, and it was still in the subdivision, it would be hometown banks, and we'd be dealing face to face with them, but different jurisdiction now.
Do I have a motion to send this memo along with a letter to the building department, highway department, and the Board of Health in regards to, this memo?
So moved.
Wait, question. Does conservation get one of these too?
Why not add them? Sure,
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
because it looks like on this breakout of the septic that there's an erosion trail that
Oh.
goes directly into the basin.
Yeah.
Just
Excellent
throwing
point.
that out there. Todd
Sure.
might wanna-
Add them, that's a very good point, thank you for catching that.
Gonna be four departments will send
Yep.
it to.
Okay.
Seven.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Just remember that.
One more
That's
note.
awesome.
One more note.
That's awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, you can see the bulk of the fence rolled off it.
One more note.
how did that, like, who discovered that? Oh, you did? Nice. Good job.
I also noticed that if we could maybe send a memo to these four people also, it's, lot number 4. There's a tree that has fallen on the chain link fence,
Okay,
and, it's no longer up.
okay. Just making a note of that.
Tree over fence.
We have that happen from time to time in subdivisions. It's not the first time we've had a tree fall on one of these fences.
I think
I can imagine.
this was cut to get out of the way.
This one
It
wasn't.
just fell the wrong
There was no
way.
tree falling in the woods on this one, huh?
No.
It's gonna be a lot of innocent looks of, what's the problem with this?
Sound like a dead giveaway, huh?
It's not much of a giveaway. Yeah, growth management, Alan, you got any more good laughs?
Unfortunately, nothing exciting or interesting, Mr. Chairman, but I do have a few items. We do have, if you recall, that we green lighted the, bond release for Solar Flares facility for the $2,000, subject to getting the O&M plan, and we've got it, it's updated, it's approved by your consultant, Sarah, and I just thought I'd pass it around. It's just a 2-page update, short-term and long-term operation. So, now, even, you voted at the last meeting, I just held it until we received that. Now I can write the letter that the board voted at your last meeting to release the $2,000 surety, and we're completely, the books are closed on,
This is the one on, what do you call it, Bay Path Road.
yes, yep. So we're up and we're running, and I understand they sell enough electricity out of their agreement to Clark University to serve Clark University about 40% of their daily electricity needs out of that field.
Really?
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Interesting.
Marshfield?
Yeah. It's a 2-meg field. It is a 2-meg.
Yeah, but it's,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
That's cool.
Another item under growth management, again, continuing on solar for a minute. I'm meeting Friday at Graves' office, as I do from time to time on Fridays, on some of the project and the proponents. And we've got 2 meetings on 2 more solar that are progressing that I've mentioned to you, but now they're moving into the pipeline. You might have seen a little paragraph in the Sunday Telegram buried in the local news that National Grid is starting to do their own little
Yes.
solar. They've decided, since it's working out, why don't they be get on that end of it too?
Yeah.
And it mentioned Charlton in the list, and they own a site farther south on Carpenter Hill Road where they have a switching facility.
Yep.
So right next to it, they want to do about a 3/4 of a meg to 1 meg field. They've hired an engineering firm out of South Carolina. I don't know why, out of Raleigh. Oh, is Raleigh in South or North
No,
Carolina?
no, that's
North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I've met twice with an engineer who's flown up from Raleigh, and we'll meet again with him on Friday as he has real plans.
Oh.
And so sometime in the near future, they'll be submitting for that field.
So they'll generate their own juice and stick it back into the grid?
Yeah.
Yep.
There
Is
goes
this on
the
the same
savings.
side of Carpenter Hill?
I'm not sure,
Is
is
the
that
other
the same side as Carbon Hill?
I think it's the opposite side.
Opposite side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the right.
Yeah, the opposite side,
Yeah.
because their switching station is up there on the hill.
Yeah, they said it would be right by the switching station.
It's almost, it's not too far from
You guess not?
the gas line.
It's right before Snake Hill on the right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I can picture the gas line, it's right by them.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, yeah.
we're also meeting Friday with Burton Engineering. They have a client that wants to put one together for a property on Turner Road. It's a new one, I'm not familiar with it. Again, it would be small, about a 1 meg, and they want to have an initial meeting on it. So we'll see what that's about, and I'll let you know. Yeah,
It's right off of Richardson's corner.
Yeah.
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 I can't picture any fields out there
I know.
other than that large tract of land that's across from Mr. Shelberg's place. They've been trying to sell,
Huh.
which was,
You think it's that?
it's gotta be.
Yeah.
It's because if you're going back to Mr. Shelberg's, there's Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah, it's a
one-
lot of Army Corps land up there, I know
It's
that.
just right across from Shelberg's is that house there, and there's quite a bit of acreage in there.
I just wanna pick some brains here. Does anybody know, supposedly when they go for these solar fields, that they sell the power first before they build the field?
It's both ways. For instance, when Solar Flare did the one we were just
Mhm.
talking about, they got approval from the planning board, and about 2 months later, they finalized the deal with Clark University. So
Okay.
some of them are comfortable in either direction. It's very interesting. It's kind of catch as catch can.
Figure they put it up, they're gonna make money someplace.
Yeah. They really realize it is, at
Yeah.
this point in time, pretty
Right now,
lucrative.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we still have the one that I can't name because they've asked to disclose, keep it quiet at this stage, but one of the larger parcels of land along Route 20 has a Florida company that would do a 4.5 meg. You wouldn't even see it from the road. And the property is so big that it would give the owner revenue to do economic development down the line and also keep some existing uses going. So it's kind of a win-win. So that one's still in the pipeline. Their engineer keeps talking with me and meeting from time to time. And there's probably 1 or 2 more in the pipeline. We definitely have the Castigian one coming in again from 0 Point when they're done with you on Skip Ellery's property. The legislation that gives a strong tax incentive is due to expire next year, and we were briefed at Mass Planning Directors last month that no one is pushing to extend it right now, but there's still so much time to go. There could be a last minute or a extension in 2015, but if an extension doesn't go through, then you'll see them slow down, the new ones coming forward, and probably die out until someone revives it with a tax break. But for now, the fishing's good and everyone's fishing.
Alan, can I ask you a question about this?
Sure.
So, this says that there's an annual report that's gonna be prepared by the town of Charlton.
Can I take a look at it?
Yep.
Yes, that's Todd, that's a Conservation
Okay.
Commission item. Yeah, Todd handles that whenever there's an O&M project for any of them.
Okay.
He just reviews it and does an update or says that
Presents
there's
to the
not an
commission.
update.
Okay,
Yeah,
just curious.
sure, no problem. How was the ride?
Good. Evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
Quick refresher of where we are. Bill has done a wonderful job as your consultant, working with us and putting together an excellent draft. He's asked for feedback from Gene, from Mike, myself. We gave him minimal feedback because we think it's wonderful. Provided to the board, and I just have more paper copies. If you can hand 2 in that direction. Do you want one for yourself? or-
I brought one.
Okay, great. And 3 in this direction. And I think it's a great path application to the program that describes everything we've talked about what an analysis of the site would be, what it could do, the nature of Charlton's situation. if you wanna describe anything to summarize, or just let the board comment, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, just to back up, you may remember, we started this about a year ago, last spring, I think, by looking at a town-owned and tax title property, trying to identify if there were sites in town that might be suitable for more affordable housing. So we went through a screening analysis, and I think we started out with about 155 properties, then narrowed it down to about 30 some odd that seemed to have some potential, and then further narrowed it down to about 6. And I met with the planning board, I think in June or something, and we decided that there was one property that seemed to have a lot of potential, and that was the Bay Path property, which is southerly of the main campus on Rugged Hill Road. It's about 92 acres, and it's not occupied at the moment and is surplus for school needs. As you know, they've just gone through a major expansion of the school, so they don't really need it for school purposes. And so Alan and I met with the building subcommittee, and they were very supportive of the idea of examining the site for housing purposes. And they also thought it might be worthwhile to look at if it had any potential for ball fields. Superintendent Flesch was particularly interested in that idea. And then Alan went to the school committee, and they also supported the project very highly. So I think we've done a fair amount of homework to get to this point in terms of looking at the town and analyzing some of the housing needs, et cetera. And at the end, coming up with this property as having some potential for new affordable housing for the town. So this program, PATH, is planning alternatives towards housing. I think it's a good way for communities to look at properties or sites that might have potential, do some feasibility analysis, and identify any constraints or potential that the sites might have for housing purposes. So that's what we've done, and we've decided to team up again. Mike Andrade, myself, and Alan and Jean worked on the Meadowview proposal through this same sort of process by examining the site for housing. And Graves Engineering, who Mike Andrade works for, will be responsible for determining the characteristics of the site, the soils, the slope, develop some preliminary site plans, some layouts of building locations and septic system and a well and that kind of thing. And I'll be examining housing needs in the town, working with Jean and Alan to try to figure out what the appropriate mix of housing is for this site, whether it might be elderly or family, and how many bedrooms and that kind of thing. So I think it's a pretty collaborative effort, and we like to have a couple of meetings with the public under the auspices of this board to invite the public in to talk about housing needs in town and the potential for this particular site as we go forward. And at the end, I think we'd have a pretty good idea of whether it's worthwhile moving forward with this location and trying to identify strategies for development, what kind of funding is available to continue the engineering analysis, etc. So I think, at this point it seems like it has potential. Now we want to get into the details and find out for sure.
The nice thing too is there is a surge pumping station down at the bottom of the hill, off of Market Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So this project wouldn't be too far from that to help tie that in. And then if they do run the water main up to the middle schools, you'd have a water service going right by it. So
Correct. Yeah.
sewer and water and
That may
feasible.
need more users.
That's right.
That's what they need.
Do they need?
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
have
Do
usage
they?
before they'll continue the line, the
Yeah.
water line. So that, would work and,
That's another feather.
For this site, we're not considering a high density kind of project, and I don't know if the school committee would be interested in, a major development that we're just looking at
Right.
maybe 20, who knows, 30
Very little bit
units.
though.
And particularly if it's a on-site system, would be limited in size anyway, but if sewer would come down there, then I suppose that could in fact
That would open it up.
change the density
Yep.
ability there.
Not only that, like I said, it would help them out with users, especially if some of that is multiple bedrooms,
Mhm.
where there's
It would be a great use during the summer months for the water department, because now the school's not that much in use. So this would be a continuing flow, which would
Yeah.
keep it moving.
Mhm.
So it would be a
Mhm.
great win in multiple ways.
Yeah, I suppose we should have Mike talk to the Sewer Water Commission and see what their plans are for the
What
pump
their
station, and
phases
if
do.
they have any desire to continue the line further down, or what their thought is, so we should do that.
Absolutely. I know they've done some core boring in the street to determine the
Yeah.
ledge and what it would take to put it out for bid. So,
Down the road.
yeah.
Just one quick comment, there's never any guarantee when you apply for a grant that you're definitely getting it, but we're confident for a few strong reasons. One, we have a big track record with them, all of us as a group. They like that we've achieved things, and they like what we've done with the funding they've given us in the past. And second of all, this initiative came from them originally when Gene, myself, former chairman John McGrath, our reps all met in Boston with Deputy Secretary Racer and her staff over 3 years now running. One of the conditions of the funding that's proceeding for the elderly unit expansion at Meadowview right now is that we initiate a planning process that would move forward at another site for non-residential, non-elderly housing, I should say. And the fact that they want us to move forward and there's an opportunity for them to give us some money to achieve what they want us to do, I think gives us a strong possibility of having some success here. So,
So at this point, we're, if you have any comments, we'll incorporate them into the draft. I think we're pretty close, but happy to, take your comments and work with them. And then Alan's gonna coordinate letters of support.
yeah, the
you know.
final dotting of the Ts and
Right.
dashing the Is and just the package that would
Right.
go in from this board to the state.
And talk to the state
Yeah.
rep and senator, get their
Yeah, we'll
support
handle
for
all
it.
that in-house,
And,
the usual.
yeah.
But in terms of the wonderful job that Bill's done, if you're okay tonight, or you just want a short period of time to anything else, but I'm certainly confident this evening to recommend approval of Bill's final version. He's done a wonderful job, and his usual wonderful job. Thank you.
Gene, being out of
Yeah.
housing.
No, no, I've read it through and the only thing is about the 30 families and
Mhm.
six, yeah, you gotta flip that.
Okay, where is that now?
On page 4.
Oh.
Right below table number 1,
Mm-hmm.
we have 30 units of family, and it should be 6 units of family.
Oh, okay.
And 30
Oh, okay.
units of elderly.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing I
Okay.
caught.
And I'm good on the few items I had. You made the changes that
Okay.
I
Right.
suggested.
You're right, okay, thanks.
And everything else that,
Okay.
that you needed, I think you have
Okay.
perfect as always.
Oh, good.
I just have a quick question
Yes.
about, it was on page 3, the population of residents age 65 and over. Do any residents of the Sonacoma, they included in that population number?
Yes.
They are? Okay.
They're actually
All right.
most of it. That's why
Okay,
it's
all
such
right,
an
that's
increase.
why I asked,
Yeah.
because I know that they're, what are they, a 66 or 65 and over restriction? Up there.
No, they start at 55.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
But the segment of 65 and over there led to the 76% increase.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
all right.
So
That was just, I was
immense.
just wondering.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, thank you.
it's unusual to have such a large project in town, so.
Some of those
Yeah.
figures and percentages, I was amazed at.
Mhm.
Really?
You don't see them too often, probably, but they're there.
Well, and then the fact that over the past 10 years or so, we have lost ground with our supposedly 10%.
I know.
We were almost up to 2% and now we're way back down again.
It's a surprise to me that you haven't had a 40B come into town.
Yeah, we had a friendly small one
Right.
Mhm.
that everyone was fine with,
Mhm.
and it was going to be about a dozen 3-bedroom townhouses.
Mhm.
And the developer went bankrupt just when the economy cooled, and someone
Okay.
bought it, and 2 years ago came back and refreshed everything with the zoning board, and then never built it.
Okay.
So that one's sitting out there shovel ready.
Okay,
But that was it.
Yeah.
You're right, and that's tiny too.
yeah.
But But if we can get a couple here and a couple there,
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
add up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about catching up, but at least.
The master plan, I know, particularly saw that as a real item for the town to work on, so.
And
This is
we're
a way
not-
to
we're
make
not alone
progress.
in that,
Yeah,
anyhow.
I know.
Will any of this have any bearing with the new change in government first of the year, the state
That's
house?
a
That's
good
always a
question.
good question. What I just hear
Aaron
is,
Gorstein is not there.
yeah, what I've heard generically is positive, that, you know, the new administration is obviously very keen on affordable
Right.
housing. Specifics and details will probably change, but I think the commitment is still there, and hopefully it will be there even further.
Who did he appointed? Jerry Ash, is it?
Yes, which I thought was a great sign.
Yes.
He's
We
the
were all encouraged
town
by that.
manager in Chelsea, I believe.
Yeah.
And again, I went to the legislative update for Mass
Mhm.
Planning Directors last month in Sturbridge.
Mhm.
And the two legislative volunteers from Mass Planning Directors were very positive on that, telling us who Jerry Ash is
Mhm.
and his commitment to everything in terms of DHC and planning. And
Yep.
apparently he has a huge commitment to the Zoning Reform Act that almost made the floor last year. So
Mhm.
this term is gonna be resubmitted through the Senate instead of the House.
Mhm.
And they think that Mr. Ash will get very involved in trying to move that forward.
Oh, okay.
So, or at least supporting it, we should say.
Yeah.
So, positive signals.
Guess we can ask Bill to, any other questions for Bill?
That's
I don't
it.
have
None.
any.
Fine with everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guess we can make a motion to keep,
I'd recommend you make a motion to accept Bill's draft and then incorporate it through the board into a final package with all the other amenities that we'll just put together on support and signature and the usual rote routines, and submit it, as we've done with the previous ones, via the chairman's PATH program.
So moved.
Second.
Alan's motion.
Thank
Whatever Alan said, I moved.
Thank you.
as read by Alan.
That works.
Works well. We have a motion for it. And secondly,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Okay.
Great.
Well, here's open.
Yep, in the very
Okay.
near future,
Good.
we'll just continue to put the icing on the cake and get it out there.
Okay. Well, thanks for your review, I appreciate it. Okay.
Just had to find time to do it.
I know. Okay, have a good night.
Thanks, Bill.
You too, bye.
Thank
Talk to you soon.
Appreciate you coming out.
Sure.
How far does he have to travel?
Worcester, so
Okay.
about half an hour. Lives down the street from me.
Who does?
He's on Metcalf.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's Metcalf.
Yes.
The, planning board business?
Just a few items. I guess we already brought up the Central Mass Regional Freight Rail Plan, and you agreed to be part of the application. We went over the revised O and F plan from Solar Flare. Barisio Solar, I also mentioned that, again, I'll follow up with him tomorrow and go over the schedule with him. He could make your second meeting in January, which I think is the 21st, for his hearing for the revision. He's got plenty of time, so you might go on that route. Also, within the next week or so, unless Burton changes, again, their workload schedule, we'll be getting in the site plan revision for the expansion of the Barkwood, so that's coming up very soon. Yeah, it's coming along very nicely. And just a quick update on the mechanics of moving toward a public hearing for Russ Jennings and Brent Salu's private recreation. As you know, just from reading in the paper, there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of misinformation. So just to repeat some of what we've said before very briefly, the application came in the other day. Jane and I are processing it. It'll be available for the public to look at starting on Monday. The public hearing ad will run this Friday and the following Friday in the paper for the January 7th session. Because we know there's a lot of interest crowd-wise and more than the normal amount of attendance, this is a small room, as the board directed me, I've already made arrangements. I booked Dexter Hall, the second floor of the library, for the first night of the hearing. And I emphasize the word first night. There is some rumor out there from people who are unhappy with the project. They think, it's come back to me, third hand at least, that it's gonna be a one-night, one-hour hearing and the board will vote to approve this thing. This is a very extensive project. These things take a lot of time, and as you know, it's usually the opposite. People complain, why haven't you processed me quicker?
Right.
This will go on for quite a while. That first night will just be an opening session, and it will continue as it needs to. I'm letting people know, and I have heard from 6 or 8 abutters who've come in or called, and I let everybody know the fact to be accurate, that whenever this board does a site plan on a large project, you take your site plan reviews technical item by technical item. It's not gonna be a presentation and then anybody can ask anything. The first night will be a general orientation and focusing initially on stormwater management and drainage and driveway design. Future sessions, when we're done with that, will segue into traffic. Then they will segue into noise. Then they may segue into any other issues this board needs to review technically. I spoke at length last week with Lloyd Bristol, who's the traffic engineering consultant for the applicant. They hired him pretty late. He only started last week, so he needs at least a month. That will again slow this review down. So when he's done, he'll submit the traffic report, and our consultant, Jennifer Connolly, Connolly Associates, will then need time to review it. Same thing with noise. They have a noise consultant. Our consultant through Graves, that we use out of Burlington, Mass, will do the same thing. So think back to the overlook process, think back to the Conover project. Same format, same time frame. This will go on for a while, type of thing. I have no comments on the specifics tonight, and I wouldn't do it anyway outside of the public hearing process, but I just wanted to just refresh, and for anyone who's watching, to belie any rumors or misunderstanding about how this process works. So, but it will kick off at your next meeting, which I believe is July 7th. Did I get the date right?
January, yeah.
Yeah, January 7th, I'm sorry. I would assume the continuance will not be to your next meeting. It will be to February. 2 weeks later makes no sense to review anything from that night. We would continue from the first night into about a month later and then see where this all goes and take it from there. So I just thought I'd throw that out there to remind everybody. Also, I'm sorry.
Our whole meeting be held over there?
Yes, might as well. You know, we've got other items on the agenda too. We might as well just do it all right there, so to speak. And I appreciate the library being available too.
Yeah. Would the selectmen's room not be large enough? Or?
Probably not
Borderline.
borderline. It's the best way to put
So
it.
the bigger one?
Yeah. If the applicant had a neighborhood meeting for information on his own and 80 people showed up, it makes sense to go with that room right off the bat.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, just to play it safe. Yeah. Did one other item related to that, and it just went out of my mind. Oh yes, as we did with Overlook and Conover, again, because it's the scale, and because there's a lot of interest, next week, when we do distribute the plan, I'll give a copy to the librarian to put at the circulation desk. So legally, we're required to make the plan available at the town clerk and the planning office. But when you have that much interest, some people say, well, I'm only around nights and weekends, I'd like to look at it. Well, the library has longer hours than us, so many people have told us in the past they appreciate being able to take a look at it at the library.
Oh.
Is there any way of letting the public know other than what we're saying right now on cable?
We will put this
It'll be in the
probably on the
ad.
webpage, yes.
Okay.
And the webmaster is nice enough to put it right on the front of the webpage, under the rolling notice section, not just buried in the planning board section. And again, that worked good with Overlook and Conover. We can do updates too. When you decide to continue a session, goes on the webpage. It also goes on the town clerk's electronic scrolling messaging too.
I know when we read a hearing notice, at the very last paragraph, it says, you know, these plans can be reviewed at the planning board
Mhm.
and at the town clerk.
Mhm.
Would, for that particular night, would it pay to put that on as the library too?
Well, one, it's too late. I've already given the ad to
Okay.
the paper and
Yep.
it's locked in. But that quote is from state law requirements, and I would just hate to add something outside of what the law
Yep.
says you should do.
Okay.
So we just do everything we can other than that to let the world know.
Alright.
Yep. And, you know, we'll also tell people who's at a session, if you wanna confirm it, you can call us or email us too.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You said that
Sure.
many times.
Yeah. So that's where we are at the moment on procedure, heading into
Mhm.
that, so to speak. We did the performance guarantee for Dewscape, and those were my items for this evening.
Nothing in miscellaneous?
No, that was my miscellaneous, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't know if you wanna do executive session on that legal correspondence or
Yes,
not, so
I
do
do.
you? Okay.
What? We don't have any minutes to read.
No, no minutes.
So, what I'd like to do is make two comments here. I'd like to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session. A motion to enter into executive session under M.G.L, chapter 30A, section 21, number 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
That'll,
Roll call.
yeah.
Aye.
I'd like to have a roll call of going in. Carl,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
and myself, yes.